All right, welcome back, seniors. It's time for class, time for study, time for activities, and really what I'm hoping for is you're growing up to be adults. Time for becoming a little bit more aware of the world around you. So, both of the tasks I'm going to ask you to do, one of them will be due at the end of the day, the other one will be due in a week or two, is to start looking at how the world affects you because of the way the government operates. The link you see is a bit.ly link. You can copy it down. You can take a picture of it. You can do a screenshot, whatever you want to do. Take a photo with your camera. And that's going to get you to a sign-up sheet to choose a presentation slot for your news you can use. And you should be ready to go as soon as the person in front of you has gone. We'll start taking presentations as early as next class for people who are ready. I'll know you're ready because you email it to me when you're done. What is it? Well, I want you to be the expert on one story. Not celebrity news, tabloids, or editorials, while those might have their own place in entertainment. It should be about a new law or some action the government's taking. It could be something the House of Reps or the Senate are doing, or a judicial court case, or something the president has introduced. You need to read about the story from at least two different perspectives. So don't just read Fox, don't just read CNN. Read at least two different perspectives. It'll help round your understanding of what's going on. You need to know how to pronounce everything, who's in charge, who's it's affecting, and it should have a title slide. It can be in Google Docs or PowerPoint. News you can use, NYCU, dash, first, last name, and the period. One title slide, a captivating visual, the source of the news, the date it was published, 4 to 5 slides summarizing the event, and then why it matters to your classmates. That's it. 10 points. If it's late, it's half credit. So if it's not turned in within 2 weeks, half credit at the most if you do a great job, or you could get a 0. If you have any more questions about that, write them now in the chat box, and I'll answer them as soon as we rejoin after the lesson today. Some ideas are to go to the Senate's website, the House of Representatives website, or the Supreme Court's website. They post all of the most important events and news, and they have tons of detail. You could also go to news websites as well. Google News is a good aggregator, or you can go to NPR, or you can go to a commercial news station if you'd like to. Today we're talking about the Senate, and the presentation is going to be pretty short because I am a teacher who doesn't like to extend your homework. It likes to give you time in class to work. So even though we're in distance learning, I'm going to give you a lot of time to get that done right now during our session. All right. So Article 1, Section 3 defines the Senate. That's, remember, two parts of the Congress, which is also called the legislative branch. There's the House of Representatives, which has a lot more people, 435, and the Senate has 100 people, 2 per state, 50 states, 2 senators each, 100. They serve for terms that are 1/3 of all the senators come up every 2 years. So every 2 years we see rotations of who's running for election. So we don't have the entire country's senators running at the same time. But they serve for 6 years. 6-year terms. That's highlighted. That's definitely a test question. To become a member of the Senate, one of the 100 senators in the country, you need to be 30 years old. You have to have lived in the United States for at least the last 9 years. And you have to be a resident of the state you're a senator in. So I would not be able to be a senator for the state of Nevada. Nor would I want to. The Vice President of the U.S. shall be President of the Senate, but has no vote unless there's a tie. What that means, Section 3, 4 of the Constitution says, if there was a vote tomorrow on the floor, and it's a simple majority, 51 votes needed to pass a law or take action, and it was a 50-50 tie, which happens once in a while, Mike Pence, who's the current vice president at the time of recording, would be able to cast a deciding vote and decide what to do. That happened in 2019, at least once. All right, cool. Let's move on. Here's our 2 senators. And here's one of those things that makes me feel like I'm not that much older than you. Dianne Feinstein was a senator when I was 5 years old and has been since I was 5 years old. Born in San Francisco, she graduated from Stanford in 1955, with a degree in history. After losing a race for governor in 1990, she won a 1992 special election in the Senate. These are all good notes that you could get points for by taking notes. Feinstein was first elected on the same ballot as her peer Barbara Boxer, who was our senator up until 2017, and both of those ladies served for decades. Feinstein has been reelected 5 times since then, and in the 2012 election, she received 7.75 million votes. That's the most votes that any senator has ever received. So she's been doing that job and holding that down since I was little. Kamala Harris is newer to the Senate, and you might know her name from running for president, and at the time of recording, being considered for vice president on the Joe Biden ticket as well. Harris was born in Oakland, graduate of Howard and UC Berkeley. She supported Medicare for all, recreational marijuana, sanctuary cities, passing the DREAM Act, lowering taxes for working and middle class. She ran for president in 2020. She's newer to the Senate seat, but has gained a lot of notoriety nationwide, especially for that presidential run. What can the Senate do, Mr. Hauger? Well, calm down, I'll tell you. And feel free to write any questions in the chat box again. Only the Senate can convict the president after impeachment. So the Senate voted not to convict President Trump in office. Same thing that happened to President Clinton, President Johnson. So there have been 3 impeachments: Clinton, Johnson, Trump, 0 removals from office. Interestingly enough, Richard Nixon probably would have been removed from office and stepped down before that could happen. We won't know for sure, but punishment for conviction in an impeachment trial. Impeachment, by the way, just means you are brought charges against. It doesn't mean that you were removed from office or found guilty, but the charges were brought. The House of Representatives drafts those charges, but the Senate is actually the jury that votes. And you need 2/3 of the senators to vote to remove a president from office. If you're curious about how that works, we can study something from a little further back than modern times. President Clinton was impeached for perjury, for lying under oath about having relations with an intern. The trial was held by the 106th Congress. The Republicans had a majority of seats. They had 55. So you would think, well, if it's all about party lines, then it'll be interesting to see who votes against President Clinton. They needed 67 to remove him. 50 senators voted to remove him on obstruction of justice. So 50, not 67. And then 45 voted to remove him on the perjury charge. So 2 charges: obstructing justice, getting in the way of the justice system, and lying under oath. But no member of his party voted guilty on either charge. Clinton, like Johnson a century earlier, and Trump in recent times, acquitted on all charges. Continued to be president. All right. Article 1, Section 4, Congressional Elections. So the Congress must meet at least once a year. You don't really need to write anything on this slide. We'll just talk about that. The Constitution sets forth how they're going to be elected and how often they have to meet. And I just wanted to remind you that it's important to hear 2 sides clearly this year. When we discuss whether it's Kamala Harris, Feinstein, or any individual, any president, it's important to hear 2 sides so we don't get one-sided sources of information. When this episode of Sesame Street came out, people said that Grover was swearing. But he's not. But it kind of does if you're not listening very carefully. And also, it's easy to be swayed by people's opinions, or the very last, most recent thing you've heard about something is sometimes the way people respond and repeat. Or retweet.
Let's see if we can't put an end to this strike fuss, huh? Mrs. Kerbapo, why don't you begin? Boo!
Oh, boo yourself. Our demands are simple: a small cost of living increase and some better equipment and supplies for your children.
Oh, that's what it's like. Give it to us.
Yeah, in the dream world, we have a very tight budget. To do what she's asking, we'd have to raise taxes.
Raise way too high as they are. Taxes.
It's your children's future.
Oh, the children in their
It'll cost you.
Yeah. Taxes.
Come on.
That's a good point. Yes. A bigger thing means to taxes.
So just keep an open mind enough to listen to an opposing argument and then make your decision on what you think your opinion is after you've done a little research. That's partly what this News You Can Use is about, and the assignment I'm going to give you in a few minutes. The last thing we talk about today is how a bill becomes a law. All tax bills start in the House of Representatives. For a bill to become a law, every bill which is passed both houses shall then be presented to the president. If he approves, if he likes it, he signs it into law. If he disapproves, he returns it to the House of Origin with a veto and says, no thanks, it's coming back to you. I don't like it. After the president rejects it, if 2/3 of the House agrees to pass it, and it goes to the Senate, and they agree with 2/3 that they should pass it, they can make a law even with the president's veto. Also, if the president is out of town, is on vacation, if the president doesn't address a bill, if it sits on his desk for 10 days, it becomes a law as well. Cool. So I want you to find 3 laws that are fairly recent. I want you to find one that's in Brentwood or in Contra Costa County. Find one in the state of California. Find a national law. The easiest way to do that is usually with the Google search, and it's, recent county law change, or new California law from January 2020, or new American law 2020. If you Google the right terms, you will find these things really quickly. When did it pass? What does it say? Who's affected? What are the potential positives? What are the potential negatives? Think critically about that stuff. Don't just say, I don't know, or there are none. Everything has a potential positive and a negative. If I'm going to increase school funding $100 million, it's going to come from taxes. If I raise taxes, people are going to get upset. Potential positives, even of something like, we'll make a homeless shelter. Potential negatives. Not everyone wants a homeless shelter in their neighborhood. Potential negatives. It's going to cost money. Potential negatives. Why should we pay for that? So try to think through what people would say. Okay, cool. And then extra credit if you create a law yourself that you think would help society, and how would it help? And that's your assignment that's due at the end of the day tomorrow. So basically get this done first. Find 3 laws. Make it a Google Doc. Make it a slide. However you want to do it. You can do it in video form or audio form. It's fine with me, as long as you do it. Cool. If you have any questions, write them in the chat box. I can answer that now, and I'm going to give you time to work on that. If you finish that, start your news you can use. And great, let me know if you have any questions. Let's jump back in. Thank you so much.